A buddy of mine reached out to me. He saw my 3D printing video. He had just purchased a truck, not just any truck, a huge truck. And what comes with a huge truck is a huge console in the center of that truck. He wouldn't be able to utilize the space very well. I didn't completely know what I was about to get myself into when I agreed to happily help. We had the rough idea, taking a look at the console. It didn't have straight walls. We had to make some quick choices. Do we try to custom fit and maximize every little bit of the console? Or do we want to stick with some straighter walls, which would be far easier to organize? Plus, I've been looking at a grid system called Gridfinity, which allows you to use a standard grid. Lots of people are printing to it. We looked at the space and jointly decided to maximize as many standard grid units as we could. These are a bunch of little squares, 42 inches by 42 inches. These grids look like this, actually. And the bottom of his console could take a 5x7, which would be about this big. Now the console itself is actually a little bit bigger, but he'd rather leave that space around the edges and then he could put longer things like a flashlight or a sheath knife. But how do you go about getting Gridfinity? Well, it turns out there's a lot of ways you can print pre-designed things. You can even use a tool already built into Fusion 360 to help you do this. But I went a different way. I followed this awesome tutorial by Shop Therapy, and I was able to build my own parametric grids and parametric bins. Parametric simply means I build it once, and then I can easily type in the number of rows and columns I want on a bin or the grid, and it'll simply make it. So I'm only modeling this one time, and then I just change it parametrically for any size I want. We had the problem framed. This was the size that we were going to do. I could start printing those bins. Now I wanted to make sure that we didn't block a USB and a light that was in there, so he had room to access his USB. So we picked a height that would accommodate that, and we started printing away. There's a good height. So you want to fill out the grid. So we picked a variety of sizes and shapes and started building out the grid and finished that off with this. As I said, the truck bin was loose around the edges, so we needed something to hold all this goodness together. So we printed a box. Once I got going on the box, I went ahead and added some handles, and then I thought it has a wood base, and so I thought maybe we could screw it down, and just in case it tended to slide around in the truck with starting and stopping. I don't know if it will once it's loaded down, but I put the option in. So that was kind of fun to learn in Fusion 360 how to taper and be able to drop a screw into these tapers. And I know that's probably hard to see, but those are tapered so that you could do a countersunk screw in there. But what material could we make this out of? We looked up PLA, which is what I typically print the filament for, but this was to go inside of a truck that is in a very hot part of the world in the summer. We looked up the properties of PLA and realized that PLA might start getting soft, might deform inside of an extremely hot truck. It looked like PETG HF was the best of the options. It's actually not rated for high temperatures, but it does have a much higher temperature rating than PLA and sufficient for our needs. It's also waterproof, chemical proof, and it's stronger. It's also more flexible. So I have this full grid here ready to go, but then I needed to print a box to put it all in. And this box, a couple of challenges came up. One is it is actually more flexible. This material is indeed more flexible. I really like it. It's strong, it prints smooth, but one of the challenges online is it said that the JB plastic bonder I usually use is not as strong on PETG HF as it is on PLA. But it said that you could use it, so this feels honestly pretty strong to me, and I don't think it's going to be heavily stressed, but that is just something to be aware of. But so far it seems to be holding. Apparently there's a special glue that you can use specifically to bond PETG to PETG, but I didn't bother to do that on this one. And then they said what really is the best thing to connect them is a mechanical fit. So perhaps there's a way. These are really thin walls. Perhaps there's a way to, put a rivet or a screw or something in, but I didn't want to do that. I used the overlap method that I'd used in a previous video. I used JB plastic bonder, and it seems to be pretty strong to me. So there we go. We have a box. Question is, will all of this fit in here? Let's just see. And of course, very satisfyingly, it does. So we've got our grid in. I'm not going to glue it in, join those. It glues so well that why bother? And these can go, whatever configuration we want. That's the beauty of it. but of course it is like a puzzle. And it can go a lot of different ways. That's great, Gridfinity, love it. So now, if he wants different sizes as his needs evolve, we could print different boxes and put sizes in. If he wants to rearrange it into some particular pattern, he can. All right, so far so good. That's the base. Now it's time to put something across the top. We tried something. I printed this guy to go on top. The idea is we put these little grooves right here, set it on top, boom, it's a nice fit. The design works well. And I put the grooves kind of cupping inside this groove. I didn't leave a lot of space in between the container and the box, so I couldn't put the grooves down very deep. If I were to print this again, that's exactly what I would do. Just lower the containers just a little bit to allow for an inside catching of the groove. But I didn't do that. Tried it out, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for a couple of reasons. I think it would have with PLA, but PLA is more rigid, and as I mentioned, this stuff flexes. So this stuff flexes, and this kind of just falls in, and also the groove's just not big enough, so it slides all over. Also, once we got it in the truck, my buddy said that's too tall. Let's go like half as tall. So it technically did fit, but he was thinking of a lower size box for that. Okay, well, a lot of PETG to learn from, but we did learn some things from it. The beauty of 3D printing is you can modify it and print it again. I will show you another challenge that I had on this box, is I had several power outages the night I was printing this. And so you can see these lines here. It messed up the print, and it definitely made it weaker. You can tell as you push on it, like I could crack that with my fingers. I'm not going to, because it's a decent bin. Might as well use it for something, but not for what I was originally intending to push it for. It was kind of terrible, actually. I'd wake up and realize the power had gone out, and I'd grab the Bamboo app and I'd hit push again, and it would start printing. But power went out about 5 times trying to print this baby, and I guess this is the ones where these two where there was a longer pause and things had started to cool before I hit the button again. So I decided to do something. This next time I put some fins down the side, something like this, to really hold it on tight. So I jumped to the modeling and modeled it up, and you can see here from the model that I have those. You can see the design taking shape. You can see what I'm trying to do in the model, but how would it look when I actually went to print it out? Well, normally you'll notice that I got a little bridge effect here, and I'll show a picture. You'll notice there's a bridge now. Normally, the Bamboo Studios tells me I need supports under this, and it didn't tell me I needed those. And I thought, why is that? And I looked at ChatGPT, and it said that sometimes if there's a bridge effect, it can make it across the bridge, and sometimes Bamboo Studios just won't recognize it as an overhang if it's got this whole bridge. In retrospect, this was kind of stupid of me, but I thought, let's just try it. So I started the printer, and it printed these bases, and my plan was to look remotely on the app and to see, once it started trying to string the flooring and create that first span, if it made it, great. If it didn't, then I could remotely stop the app. And I thought maybe there's a chance. This PETG is really stringy. Maybe it could pull it across and connect. Unfortunately, the meeting I was in was pretty involved, and I forgot to look at the app until after the meeting. I pulled up my phone, looked at the app, and what do I see but these prints printed, and this crazy mess. This is like spaghetti just everywhere. So I immediately stopped the print. Time for a retry of the print. No design changes. I just needed to put in supports. I clicked the supports. That increased the time from like 5 hours to 12 hours to print all these supports. I honestly think there's got to be a better way than printed out the part. Here's the part. We have the part. It's beautiful. Works great. It's got the handles in there. I printed a little grid and placed that in here. It's rough. You can see where all those supports are. It is pretty rough, but I don't care because that's the bottom. Nobody's even gonna see that. And so here's the grooves, but does it work? Well, let's see. So we grab it and boom, love it. That is solid. You know, I'd already printed this. I don't want to reprint like a brace for it to catch, but the truck is not far away here, so it's never going to go more than just about a ½ inch or inch to each side, so it's okay. In an ideal world, I would print these tracks on the inside. I'd probably make them shorter. They don't need to be this long. I'd lower these containers down and so that I would have some room for an inside track, and that inside track could stop it on both sides here. But we decided that we're not going to put any bins around the side. We're going to leave that for other places. So these aren't going to interfere. So for this build, that works great. So far so good. I just need to put some little bins in here. And I started printing the bins and I realized something. I was running out of PETG. Now, if I hadn't made this mistake, maybe even this mistake, I'd probably have enough PETG to finish, but I didn't, and I could tell that I wasn't going to. The only color I had was black, so I had a great idea. I made a split-second decision. You'll see why that's punny here in a minute. And I grabbed that black PETG and I made the container. I cut it, put in the black, let that fill up, and then for the last 15 minutes of the build, I spliced in the blue again, so that when you're looking down on this, it's a blue top. And that's totally fine. It's blue, it's got kind of the black in here. Honestly, I think they're kind of cool looking. Happy little accident here. It's got a, you know, this is the police style container here. So there you go. Finished, finished, finished box, finished bins. I learned a lot about Gridfinity. I learned some design, learned some Fusion 360, and this was just a really fun build. And there you have it, 100% done and ready to give to my buddy. He is super excited about it, and I'm excited to give it to him. So let's go check out what it looks like in the truck.
Fits like a charm.
Yep, that'll work anyway. There it is.
There it is. Sweet.
If you enjoyed this video, you may enjoy the very first video I did on 3D printing, or here's my latest right over here. Thanks for watching.